And we're live. I think it was some time ago, and I think it's the fifth episode, right?
That's correct, Markus. Good to see you again. It was actually before the summer. So we are back after the summer. Very long summer pause for us, but we are back with a new update, Markus. So we'll do it as we always do. So you have some questions for me. We have not rehearsed the questions, and I don't have any script or anything. So just go ahead, shoot, and start the dialogue. I think these sessions have become actually, I got quite a lot of interest and I got positive feedback from them. So looking forward.
Yeah, maybe I should say that I don't particularly have a script either, but I have a bunch of questions. So now it's a playing field for both of us, Robin. Yeah, I've had
Okay.
vacation for some time, and maybe we can start off. I've gotten this question of why didn't we start communicating earlier about the delay of the study? And I think you and me have
Yeah.
been in discussions, and I can be honest, I have been in a conundrum because I wanted to be from a shareholder's point of view to not getting too involved. But I think Robin has been very supportive, and we decided a bit later that I'd be on the insider list so we could actually start preparing for this episode.
That's right.
But would you like to start? Because, 13th of May, we were sitting down, releasing a video saying that, oh, everything is
Right.
looking bright. What
Yeah.
happened after
Yeah.
that point in time, Robin?
Well, it's like everything that can go wrong actually went wrong. Not really. The problem was the following, and for that I have to take a step back regarding how this production actually works. So it's actually two parts. There's one CRO. We outsource everything. First of all, we are not producing the material ourselves here in Södertälje. It's just the lab we have here to do preclinical research. So we outsource the production of the material, the white powder, so to speak, the Gabater raw material. We produce this in a laboratory in the Czech Republic. And the capsules that are used for the clinical trial are produced in Spain. So what happened is the material was sent to Spain. The production was delayed in Spain of capsules for all sorts of operational reasons. Eventually, finally, we had the capsules produced, the whole series. It takes about 2 weeks. After that, the capsules were already sent to Denmark. We were ready to start. And then I got the information that the capsule, the final material, did not pass the quality control test at the very end of this incident. Of course, this should have been done before it was even sent. So we had to put a full stop. We had to take 10 steps back and said exactly what was the problem. Worst problem, and the thing that wasn't up to me, to negotiate between two laboratories in two different countries in Europe is not that easy, believe it or not. First of all, what is the problem? Is the problem the raw material? So I had to go back to the provider in the Czech Republic and said, please test the material that was sent to the provider to make the capsules. Has that been compromised, less purity, whatever? Thank God, after they got a report from them, no, the material is actually okay. So was some issue with the other provider. Now, it's very difficult to get two labs to agree on an analytical method on the same material for whatever reason, operational reason, whatever. Long story short, the purity in the raw material could not be reproduced in the purity of the clinical material that was used in the trial, i.e. we couldn't use this material, i.e. the whole batch that was already in Denmark was sent back, stopped, and we're going to start a new production now in Spain from scratch that would meet the quality control material. And, it's already very compressed in a very few sentences. But I can tell you, this is a longer story because you have to coordinate two different laboratories with two different attitudes at the same time. And I'm sure that'll be one of your next questions. I also have, of course, to relay to the team in Denmark, who was literally waiting already with a lab coat on to start the trial. And, I said to her, what the hell is going on? Why can we not start? But,
What did
of
they say,
course, this is
Robin, in Denmark then?
exactly. So clinical trial material is very regulated stuff. And if it doesn't meet the criteria, you cannot start the trial. Patient safety and of the trial is always number one. So there was nothing to do, There are no shortcuts.
Yes, and I think also during this period when I think I just came back from abroad and we started a dialogue, I understood that you had not been abroad or taken any vacation. You've been working all summer,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, no, yeah. I
we
mean,
came in this
the question.
conundrum. Yeah, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
exactly, and it was always difficult, because if you can't answer the simple question, well, what is going on? and I was getting worried that I was sounding more and more like a politician to you. Are you not really answering the question that you're actually asking me? So finally we agreed, to do that, and it was actually a relief. And in the very second that I knew what the issue was, the issue is solved, and we can now move ahead, and I will get a new date for production as soon as possible. We release the information. That was the press release from last week, and it's a big relief for me because I can finally speak freely.
I think, it's maybe a bit, it was maybe a stressful situation. What should I communicate? And it's, you can always say that a man proceeds in the fog, right? But when he looks back to judge people of the past, he does not see the fog of their path. And I think that's very clear in this sense. You were just trying to grab in front of the fog, solving the issue. You thought of one thing and then another, and then you just kept going. But I think from now on we can continue communicating quite transparently.
Absolutely, Markus. But this kind of information is very tricky to communicate. What are you going to? I mean, when you say it's difficult to communicate, then I can only say, well, welcome to my life, because how should I communicate? The problem is the following. I could say, my God, this trial is delayed, but I cannot tell you for how long. Okay. We cannot start the trial, but I don't even know what the problem is, and I don't even know if I can solve it. That's even worse. That's disinformation. So I had to thread the line. Where do I know what exactly the problem is? How can I solve it? Can I solve it? And then I can go out and communicate. That was the whole issue. That it took so long. And that is the maybe it's of interest for people in business. The thing is, if you have relatively few resources for a big project like this one, like Gabather, then you have to go out and find CROs that are very cost effective, so to speak. You could, of course, always go to one very big CRO, one very big provider who does everything in-house, i.e. production of the capsule, sending it to the hospital, maybe also arranging the whole clinical trial. But you don't have the resources for that. So, you have to shop around and try to get the best service for the resources that you have, and then you end up with two different providers in two different countries with two different cultures, two different standards, and you sit in the middle. And I do not have the access to the analytical method here, and I do not have the method to the analytical method there, and I'm the one that is responsible towards the clinical trial in Denmark, and I can tell you it's not the most comfortable place to be sitting on.
Doing it remotely also, but I think also we can reiterate over some discussions maybe we haven't talked about here, but before I started getting involved, that going into this study, it was never a question on how to get the material ready. That was always, you've never had a problem with that. It's maybe other problems, right?
No. I mean, that is a problem, the material, the production of the material and the transport of the material and the start of the trial is only one part of the study. So the study actually starts in the moment where you do the planning, the logistics, you get the project leaders, you get all the people in place, ready to start the trial. They are waiting for the material from us as a last step. But the study itself is, of course, already started and funded. And I think this is very, very unfortunate, and I'm the most unhappy person about this whole thing. But discussion with the TOTEMS group and the Innovation Fund also made clear that it's not the only company this kind of thing happens, unfortunately. And actually, talking about communication, we actually got a little bit of a clap on the shoulder that our transparency vis-a-vis the team in Denmark was actually very much appreciated, because these are not news that you rush to publish. It's an issue you need to solve it.
No, of course, and that's something also good, right? I still believe in the study. As you mentioned also in the interim report, it's still fully funded. There's nothing changed.
No, exactly, and that is what I mean. That this strategic perspective of whole Gabather and this trial has not changed. I mean, we're still working with medicine. We hope to see some effects in patients that suffer from schizophrenia, and we hope to be able to partner out the project. So that is all the same. But of course, there's a delay. And delays are never good. Delays are always costly. but it's not the end of the world. It would have been much more critical if the material that we have in warehoused for production of new capsule would have been degraded. Then that is really an issue, because we got quite a lot of raw material warehoused, which is very stable and very good. I got my first heart infarct I got when I heard the news from the provider in Spain, and I was about to get a second one when I opened the email from the provider in the Czech Republic, but thank God it was all good news there. So
Yeah. I'm just thinking, from a layman's perspective, what does this mean for the patient per se? Because in one way, you're really promising, if GT002 could be the thing, right? We could actually measure it without any doubt, right? So what do you think you could see from a patient's perspective? Is this is good, right? Quality control is in place.
well, absolutely. Then there is no, there's no gray zone there. The material has to fulfill the criteria with which you apply for when you do the clinical trial. When you go to the regulatory authorities, you say, I want to use this material, which is in this quality control criteria for this patient group, for this study. That's it. If it comes out, even if it's, we are talking in our case about a couple of percentage purity differences. Okay, they go under the criteria, full stop, you can't use it. There's no, it doesn't look so bad. No. Number one is, patient safety has been in all our trials number one, and this is just, it's regulatory authorities, and that is completely okay with me, I think. And also, you want to get the results. Let me put it that way. The better the material you work with, the better your results, okay? If somebody then during the study has some side effects or something and your material is actually not okay, then how do you know that it's not because of the impurity? You don't want to do that. So good material, good results, good planning, good results. So, but in our case, because I've been waiting for this study for so long, it was very, very unfortunate. That is my feedback to how to spend the summer running around.
Yeah. Now, when you have done all this planning, all this coordination between partners, you're saying that the time frame, how much has it changed per se? We said that it was supposed to start in the summer. How big will the impact be on the full study?
I think fair guesstimate is 2 months.
2 months difference. That's it.
Yeah.
Cool. That's you solved it in 2 months.
There the advantage is, well, the problem is, that if you have a team ready for a certain date and then it doesn't happen, it's a lot of logistical headache, but this is all solved,
And then you also mentioned that you're looking for some readouts in Q1 2026.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think? What are you hoping for in Q1 when it comes to?
I'm hoping for, first of all, the study has started. I'm hoping for the first readouts from the EEG and to show that GT002 treatment has the right effect on the EEG patterns in some of the first patients and controls that we get through. I think that will be a very, very good readout, that we go at least in the right direction. It will not be, a statistically significant table that you can publish, but it will be at least a first indication. And I think then we're on our way.
What would what would that kind of indication mean for you and for the company per se? Because sounds like, it's an indication it would be going in the right direction, but what would that strategically mean for Gabata per se?
Exactly. Keyword here again is strategy. I mean, if you talk to people that might want to invest or not into Gabata, for them, and I told them, we have this delay in the start of the trial. And they, of course, want to see that the trial actually takes place and is actually starting, and that is absolutely a milestone key. But for them, they look at more from a rather strategic picture. So for them, it would be then, for example, okay, if you have started with your trial, you start to see some interesting effects, then we might be interested in funding another big trial, another trial, same indication, many more patients, much bigger volume in Gabata, because we think that might work. So from a strategic perspective, it has not had that big impact. From a tactical one, from our day-to-day, it's of course not good at all, this delay. But from a strategic one, it's not the big one. So it goes back to, to the reaction from the project group in Denmark and the hospital that okay, these things happen. So you're not the first ones. And then the same way from the people that want to look at other bigger trials funded by a third party that, okay, that's really bad. Let us know when you guys are starting and we talk again. It's not say, okay, now that you have had this delay, we're not interested in you anymore. That's not the case. That's not
the candidate is still the same. It's like the window communication. But if I take this, because I had this as a follow-up, we had seen analysis from an outside firm, and that was indicating that it could be potentially having a second phase 2 trial. And how would kind of that set up? Is there anything you can communicate about it? Anything you want to communicate? Because I've seen questions around this.
Not really, but I mean, there's always the potential of that, because when people talk interesting about getting involved with Gabater, and they said, okay, so now you got an exploratory phase 2 trial, do you think you can do then, if the initial results are a bigger trial, with other readouts, other than EEG, there are many ways of doing this. That is number one, that there's an interested in that. And then, of course, once you have starting with patients in schizophrenia, might be also then interesting in doing funding a second trial in another indication we talked about, and that's probably this analyst refers to for Gabater,
So if I summarize it from my perspective, Robin, then so what you're saying is, because when we were talking with Mindig last time, right, we were saying this is a novel way. We're actually using the window of the brain, looking at the results for 002. But what you're saying is that there could be also that you could go with the more traditional route. It would be a bigger scope of patients maybe, but it would be the traditional way of, is it questionnaires that you'll do with the patients in that case instead of the EEG and fMRI?
It is questionnaire. It is questionnaires. It is tests of cognition, different kind of essays, maybe different kind of EEG approaches too. So you're basically you're expanding the whole trial. You're using longer treatment times. Can be very interesting. So this is more like a door opener. And in that sense, this delay, which we started this meeting about, it has not that big strategic impact, but has very big tactical impact. Okay. Because the people that are interested, they're of course an interest. Okay, once you start this trial, then we start to get interested. But for them, it's not so important that, okay, you started this trial 1st of July that you've always said, For them, it's okay, fine. You had this delay, great, and let us know. Oh, you started in 1st of October or whatever, fine. Okay, then we can go ahead, So that is the at least the response that I have. That I've got out once we got out with the information.
When we're coming to that, because one question that I've had, and I've gotten it as well, is kind of how do you balance the idea of taking in new capital and then looking out for partners? Is there anything you can mention around that partner balancing that?
Well, I think the key work right now is getting new resources into Gabater, and there I can also say that we have a new board of directors, and Bert, and Teresa and me, I think we're a very good team for that. And Bert and I work a lot, and the focus was 100% on getting funding into Gabater, and then also new partners. The way I see it now, there's more interested in funding larger clinical trials through external funds in the future with GT002, and also waiting to see for the pipeline, but it's very much focused on GT002. So, when I go and speak to people, the feedback I guess is okay, GT002, if we are going to work with you at Gabater, then GT002 is absolutely need to have. But, your pipeline, okay, that's also nice to have. We want to take a look at, but it's not the key thing. The key thing is definitely bigger clinical trials with GT002.
Maybe that could be, because I've been thinking also what could we look into in the future, and that could be something also. I've seen that question popping up every once in a while, and I've gotten a question to myself also, asked that if I could ask. Maybe we can make an episode also. What does the patent family look like, comparing GT002, and then also maybe talking about the other candidates within the patent families?
Absolutely.
So I guess the audience needs to give feedback. Would you like to see that kind of discussion? Because we have had it, you and me, back and forth. Also when I've been to the lab in Södertälje. but maybe we should have an
You
episode
de-
keeping right.
Definitely, Markus. And I think the only thing I avoid in this kind of discussion, and then you were going to be bombarding me all the time by saying, oh, why didn't you do this earlier? And why haven't you investigated this? And you got this whole pattern family waiting there, here on the shelf in your lab, and so on and so on. Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually,
Maybe that's a fair thing also. We can discuss it. Why did you go for 002? Because there's a reason for it.
Yeah, there actually is a reason for it. But no, all I'm saying is you're absolutely right, Markus. The problem, or not the problem, but the issue for Gabata has always been show us that your compound works in the clinic as quick as possible, because you need some ice-breaking sort of molecule or project and say, okay, then we can follow with all the other ones. And we never had the resources to go, full steam ahead with 6 compounds, once you get into GLP tox kind of level of compound from the preclinic as the next steps, that we never had those resources. So we always push GT002 as far as possible and as quickly as possible, for better, for worse, But that's where we're now. But anytime, Markus, if we want to have an extra session, if we have people that are actually interested in that, absolutely, that would be actually really nice, because we have quite a lot,
I think I have 3 questions left. Are you ready? The Society of Neuroscience in San Diego.
That's right.
Can't you tell us something more about it?
Which is well, that the Society of Neuroscience San Diego is one of the biggest neurosciences meeting. I think it's the biggest one in the world, and I don't know if I can go there in person or virtually, whatever. The key thing is that we put in an abstract, and we're going to make a poster there. We're going to put all the data from GT002, including all the clinical data together, and have it there, so we get the GT002 in there. I think the abstract book, I don't know if it's already published, but the abstract is accepted. We're going there and presenting there. So that is a scientific meeting. We're also, of course, going to business development meetings. But the way I see, and this is just my feedback here from the lab, that there's more and more virtual meetings, rather than very big personal meetings. Eventually, of course, personal meetings are necessary, but as a preliminary, there are quite a lot of virtual meetings. There's a biotech meeting right now, for example, and we just meet the people virtually and via Teams booked. So,
can you tell us a bit more about the conference, because it's quite international? Who's participating? What's the goal of the conference?
Well, the Society for Neuroscience meeting has been going on like forever. I think they started in the 70s. And I think everybody that works in the neurosciences will tell you that they've been there at one stage or another, either from an academic or for commercial, mainly academic actually, environment. And I've been going there, I think, every year in my younger days in my career as an academic scientist, but also later on. And it's one of these meetings where literally everybody is there, always.
Both academia and companies.
Yeah, so if you want to, put your name out there and start discussing. It's very, you have a poster session and you have a poster half a day, and everybody is there and interested will come to you, make a lot of contacts. So providers are there. It will be very interesting, and just to put our name up there, I think it's very good. I mean, I'm a member of the Society for Neurosciences actually. It's a little bit of a, one of these meetings where everybody that you know in the field, that you've read papers about, okay, this person is there, you can go and talk to them, and it's a very open, very nice, really exchange of ideas, and great meetings actually, and everybody, students, postdoc, doctorate students, business people, everybody's there. It used to go around America, but now it's become so big that they couldn't find, conference centers that were big enough for this particular meeting. So now it ended to be in either Chicago or San Diego. So because they got the biggest conference center, and as America, big in America is really big. So these are big meetings.
Sounds like a good place for Gabata to be. If that's where it's happened, Gabata should be there, right?
Yeah.
Next question then. We've heard something, you can correct me on this. Is there been any discussions with Karolinska or something, or with FTD and so on in the past?
The discussion with Karolinska had the entire team on the Karolinska on the prefrontal dementia project is in place. The problem is we never had the funds to actually get the project started. Having said that, I was with out of all this bad news, I think maybe if make a new production of the capsules now, I think we could use some of this material to do something with the group in the Karolinska. I mean, they're still interested, and kept them. Again, there was something I talked to them in May and reactivate that. But again, Markus, I go back to the thing. The focus of Gabather has always been to get the GT002 project into the clinic and into the patient. I wish we had the resources to do all the other project also. I can tell you.
But it's a good, healthy thing. People want to get to try it in different perspectives, right?
I understand it, but one of the first things I learned at the business development meetings I used to then I said, listen, we are not interested in funding your R&D for the next 6 years. Show us that your compound goes into the brain, it does something in the patient. I mean, it sounds very platt and crude, but that's what I heard. Show us that your compound goes into the brain, show it that it does something into the brain, and show it as a positivity on patients. Then we can talk. These are business people, of course, not necessarily scientists. But that's a way to, and I can see the point. Yeah, sure.
It makes sense because from a shareholder's perspective also, right? We don't want to fund something forever either. We want to see that it's going to lead to something.
Exactly.
So,
valid point. You're not interested in listening to some nerdy lab guy who says, "Ooh, this looks super interesting in this model," and what weird model is. And end of the day, you're trying to develop a medicine to help patients. End of story, and that's why we're so much focusing on this particular one. Absolutely.
Yeah. Last question that I have for today is that I think some time ago, was it we heard something about the European Medicines Agency, I think it was. Well, that you were applying for something there.
Yeah, the idea was to apply for orphan designation within frontotemporal dementia. But I mean, for that, we have to show first the fact that either we have a clinical trial or we have to have some to substantiate the claim that they can be used for a clinical trial for the treatment of frontotemporal dementia. But for that, you have to have some evidence or some data that actually can have that effect. And I can't even derive data from other patient group because we have not treated the patients yet because our clinical trial in Denmark hasn't started yet.
Yeah, so it's just full speed on Denmark then, correct?
Yeah, but exactly. But if I think about us, leading of resources, if anybody has spare time, they're more than welcome to join me. We always need good people to work on.
I'm joining you,
sort of
right?
Project, which, yeah, but we literally had so many things that are on the shelf that are, you think about it, I should have done this, but there has to be also focus on what one does. I can understand that. I get it.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to do, actually. But, to not last words, but just to reiterate, that I was really, really very positively surprised by the support of the Innovation Fund and the TOTEMS team in general for the project when I told them that we had this delay, it was very good. And actually, instead of making the collaboration more distant or more difficult, it actually made the dissertation more closer because we're going to work together on some preclinical stuff also. So that was really, really a nice surprise. And, when you're in a situation like me where you have to do crisis management all the time, then you're actually happy about good news. And this was certainly one of the good news to come out of that, And as soon as...
Can you reiterate on that a bit? Because I didn't clearly understand what you meant by that positive side note there.
I meant that, I expected that when I communicated this to the Innovation Fund, that they were going to be very disappointed as, this project maybe doesn't work. And they were the opposite. So they would say, no, but it doesn't matter. Okay, there's a delay, but we continue anyway. And in the meantime, we can work together on looking at publications that we could do together. Maybe the preclinical stuff we can do together. So instead of putting
That's
more
cool.
distance between the groups, it put the groups more together, And that was a nice experience for me, because I was in that time, running around in circles trying to fix problems. And there you have something good that came out of a, not very fortunate situation. So that's good.
Yeah. I guess I want to encourage people, write questions so we can come up with topics. You and me, Robin, we're sitting here having our discussions, but usually if you have any viewpoint on what should we be discussing, please send me questions. You're going to find my email at the bottom. And don't bombard Robin with all the questions. You can take some through me, or you can reach out to me in Discord. Next time when we meet, we haven't decided on what we're going to be discussing yet. We have some couple of plans, but hopefully we're going to continue the transparency. I can only say I'm all in now also with Robin here. So I think the communication between us, it doesn't need to be hidden in the same way. I'm signing papers in the background.
No.
Should we?
Exactly. But
yeah, go ahead, Robin.
Like you said, Markus. I mean, there are two things that have come, just spontaneously, which come up to my mind about what to talk about. The pattern situation, the pattern groups. It's actually, that would be a nice topic. Yeah. Then the second would be, what about the preclinical data? A little bit more scientific. How did we choose GG? You mentioned it yourself in one of the sentences, and then also, never got to it because you always try to be actual. But I actually would. Once we have time, Markus, to do a little bit about the background and history of Gabather, how we got where we are now. I think it's a good story, actually, an interesting story.
I've been a part of the company for some time, but I haven't been there from the start. So I'd gladly have that discussion and learn how did it all start and so on. So shall we round up there? Come with suggestions, what you'd like to see. We're here to listen, and we're here to tell the story of Gabather. Correct?
Exactly, Markus, and thanks a lot. I promise that there won't be such a long delay between this video meeting and the next one, Markus. So we try to go back to our once a month,
regular cadence,
5 weeks kind of trot. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Brilliant.
I think let's hold that promise, and then we'll. Otherwise, you can snap us on the fingers next time. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for today, Robin.
Cheers.
Bye bye.